All right, let's get into it. Today, we're unpacking a pretty bold and, let's be honest, controversial philosophy of social dynamics. It's a system designed to just cut right through all the mixed signals and get you a clear answer. And it's all built around one powerful idea: testing for interest.
So, here's the game plan. We're going to start with what the source calls the nice guy dilemma. Then we'll get into the core concept of testing. After that, we'll look at the most extreme version of it, the mindset you need to even try it, and finally, some actual tools for taking the lead.
Okay, first up, the nice guy dilemma. The source material kicks off by zoning in on a frustration I think a lot of us know, that weird social gray area. You know, the friend zone, where everything just kind of stalls out and nobody's really sure what's going on.
So, according to the source, this question right here, this is Exhibit A of what doesn't work. It gets called out as being vague, wimpy, and just projecting total uncertainty. The argument is that it doesn't build any attraction because you're forcing her to guess what you really want, and it almost never gets you a straight yes or no.
And this table really lays out the whole idea. On one side, you've got the vague stuff that just creates confusion. On the other, you have what's called a bold test, which is all about demanding clarity and showing confidence. According to this philosophy, giving a woman a clear, simple choice is what actually drives up her interest, while being uncertain just leaves things flat.
So if being vague is the problem, then what's the solution? Well, this brings us to the absolute heart of the source material: testing. And the big shift here is moving away from passively trying to figure out if she's interested to actively creating that interest.
Here's the official definition. Testing isn't just about watching and waiting. It's about taking deliberate actions, one after the other. It's got a two-part mission. First, figure out where you really stand, and second, actually increase her interest by acting confident and creating what the source calls positive emotional tension. You know, that spark.
So why is this supposed to work? It's framed as a three-step psychological chain reaction. First, by getting a yes to small test, you're suddenly on her radar. Her brain then has to justify why she's complying, which makes you seem more valuable. All this projects confidence, which the material calls the ultimate aphrodisiac, and that confidence creates that emotional tension that's supposedly essential for attraction.
All right, now we're getting to the part where this theory becomes really direct, really actionable, and pretty damn controversial. This is what the source calls Level 3 testing, the bold gesture.
This right here is probably the most radical idea in the whole framework. The goal isn't to avoid rejection, it's to get to it as fast as you possibly can. The logic is all about efficiency. You want to find out who's really interested and stop wasting time in these ambiguous situations. The only way to get a clear yes is to make it incredibly easy for her to say no.
So what do these Level 3 tests actually look like in practice? Well, notice something about all of them? Not a single one is a question. They're commands. Meet me tomorrow at 4 o'clock. They're direct physical actions, like pointing to your cheek for a kiss or grabbing your hand and leading. Even getting a number is a statement. Give me your number. The common thread is that they're all totally unambiguous and force a clear response.
And look, pulling these off requires a very specific mentality. It's all about leaning directly into that fear of rejection. The source argues that you have to be willing to risk a hard no to ever get a real yes. Your priority has to shift from just keeping things comfortable and friendly to getting a clear, honest answer about where she's at.
This brings us to a super crucial point. The source is very, very clear that the bold actions are completely useless if you don't have the right internal psychology. It all comes down to developing an unattached mindset.
Here's the biggest barrier the source identifies. It argues that tons of guys get comfortable with low-risk flirting, but they just freeze up when it's time for a bold test. And why? Because they're terrified of losing the approval they've already gotten. This need for outside validation is framed as the single biggest thing holding them back. So to get over this, the source offers a simple but pretty powerful analogy: the pizza place. Imagine you walk in, you see 5 different kinds of pizza. Today, you're in the mood for pepperoni. Does that mean you hate veggie pizza? Is veggie pizza worthless? No, of course not. It just means in that moment you wanted pepperoni. The argument is that attraction works the same way. Her response isn't some deep judgment on your fundamental worth. It's just a reflection of her preference in that specific moment. It's not personal. So how do you actually develop this detachment? The material offers a kind of mental toolkit. First, adopt the scientist mindset. You're just out there gathering data. A no isn't a failure, it's just a data point.
Second, operate from abundance. No single interaction is a make-or-break situation. And finally, practice self-approval. Your sense of worth comes from you, not from her response. You have to be okay with some people just not being that into you.
Okay, so we've got the theory and we've got the mindset. Now for the final piece, the practical tools to actually apply this stuff and, well, to master the lead.
The first tool is the 3-second rule, and it's dead simple. The moment you see someone you want to talk to, you have 3 seconds to act. Any longer than that, and your brain starts overthinking, it starts creating anxiety. The core idea here is that taking immediate action just short-circuits all that hesitation and projects a kind of natural, spontaneous confidence.
This next tool is designed to lower the fear of rejection, having pre-planned outs. So if a bold test crashes and burns, you don't just stand there awkwardly. The key is to deliver one of these lines confidently with a smile. It shows you're unbothered, it lets you keep your composure, and the source claims it can even paradoxically build attraction by showing just how well you handle getting shot down.
And here's one final crucial point. This isn't just about the first approach. The philosophy argues this whole leadership dynamic has to continue. The moment you become passive and fall back on, "So what do you want to do?" you give up the lead, and her interest is predicted to just fade away. The idea is to always have a plan. So, after laying all of that out, we're left with a pretty central question. Is this system we've just looked at a blueprint for developing genuine, authentic confidence by overcoming your fears? Or is it just a script for calculated control in your social interactions? That's something to think about.